show. I'm Sherry Schreiner. A couple things I want to talk about tonight. I don't know if you watched the closing of the ceremonies of the Olympics. I know I didn't. I never watched the beginning or the end. Sometimes I catch blurbs of the beginning, but they're usually so satanic you don't even want to bother with it. And so I typically don't. If somebody comes up with a good video on it, I might watch that. But what I noticed over the Olympics, especially towards the end, when you get to the point where you're thinking, half these people are soul scalped, and you're looking at them, and their eyes are slits, or they look like snowflakes, or, you know, you're just looking at these athletes that have been around forever and dominate, especially in swimming. And that whole thing with Ryan Lochte, I just thought was so weird, where he was talking about how they were robbed at gunpoint and all this stuff. And the whole time he's talking, two words keep coming to me, pounding at me over and over the entire time, entire week, the last couple of days it's been going on. And that is humiliation ritual. That the whole thing was set up for humiliation. It's a humiliation ritual. And if you look at the other three swimmers that were involved with him, they all look like a bunch of MK Ultra puppets, and they acted like it too. If you heard Lochte talking, he was talking about they didn't want to say anything because they didn't know if they'd get in trouble. They were being out drinking, and then they all realized, well, they're over 21. Really? You realized you were over 21? Ryan Lochte's 32 years old, acting like he's some college kid. So I think his alter personality might be a little bit younger. The whole thing was just so strange. The whole thing. They talked about how they vandalized the bathroom, but there was no obvious vandalism seen in the bathroom. Somebody walked up to me, and I was halfway lit, sitting in the back of a car, and pointed a gun at me and demanded money, and you didn't know they were security. You didn't know what they were saying. You didn't know their language. You might say the same, react in the same ways, whatever. But, yeah, the whole thing just reeked of a humiliation ritual. I remember several years ago, Michael Phelps went through the photo with him seen with the bong partying at a party. Could have been part of his humiliation ritual. And when you join the Illuminati, you have to have some kind of humiliation. It's part of the rituals. So all these celebrities and stuff, everybody who's brought up is brought down, so to speak. And so that's why they have these humiliation rituals. Kanye West played the bad guy really good in that humiliation of, what's her name, Swift. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Taylor Swift. He played that really well, humiliating her in front of the world. And then he took the flack for it, so it's kind of like he humiliated himself. Maybe it was part of both of them to have a huge humiliation. And that's how they took care of two birds with one stone. I don't know. But they all go through this. They'll have a... most people, it's just, you don't even care about. So if something humiliating comes up about them, you don't even pay attention. You don't realize it's part of the rituals. You don't care about it. And then when something, other people will grab your attention more. And so, there's a price to all the fame and fortune. And, they have the humiliation rituals. So, I just wanted to bring that up. Another thing I thought was interesting, a couple weeks ago, I brought up on my Facebook about, what if all this time the red sun, the symbol of Japan, because they've got this kind of moniker going where it's the land of the rising sun or the land of the red sun. It never occurred to me until then. What if the sun is Nibiru? Because the sun isn't red, but Nibiru is. Nibiru is known as the red planet. And nobody even talked about it as a sun until I released it in my book, Interview with the Devil, how Lucifer had wanted to turn Nibiru into his son, his own son. He was trying to create his own heliocentric heavenly planetary solar system, and they were going to put Nibiru in the center of it and to be their son. The father had told me that stuff and put it in the book. And so now all of a sudden, Japan, I don't know, someone posted a video, I think it is, I didn't have time to watch it, of Japan holding a red ball. One of the leaders of Japan holding up a red ball. And something else in his hand. Not sure what it is. Looks like maybe it's an orange sun. And the red ball's south behind it and below it. It's kind of like he's holding up an astrology sign, astronomy sign. So that's interesting. Because I've talked for years about the Japanese. And they're really the ones behind all this Nasera stuff. This whole New Age agenda. The Ashtar, who refers to themselves as the Ashtar Command, the Ashtar Fleet, and all them. Japan's always been the huge ones behind all that. Japan is very dominant in space. They have a lot of co-space starships, I guess you could call it, with the Ashtar Command, the aliens. They speak to one of the angels. They think it's an angel. It's actually just a fake. Raphael. They believe they're in communications with the real Raphael. They believe Japan is the real location of the Ark of the Covenant. And so they have a lot of things going with deception and lies and this whole Sarah New Age agenda that is coming upon us. And so, and they have a lot of tech, folks. They have some of the most advanced alien tech, more so than even the Russians. I don't think the Americans can compare to either one, the Russians or the Japanese, because the strength of those two nations is exactly as Lucifer says. It's their ability to shut up, to stay quiet. America never stays quiet about anything. And America is too impossible to control because of our revolving door of politics. And so that's why they have the shadow government running in the background. So they don't have to deal with the revolving door. They can keep things stable in the background. But we know who controls the shadow government. It's just Lucifer's people themselves. You know, I don't know about any of you, but I keep feeling we've got 3 months left now. And I always feel that about this time of the year because it's going to be winter. And I typically don't even plan to go on the road in November and October or November, December, and January. Typically like to just stay home. Of course, that's when we're getting pounded with ice and snow. A good time for those in the warmer states to stand up and start getting orgone in their states. Well, we're in the deep freeze in the north and the Midwest. I'd love to go on a road mission yet this year. I like hitting October. The last couple of years we've been on missions. It's been in October. I'd love to do it again this year. I probably need to raise about 25 to 35,000 just to hit what I want to do on the road. You know, it takes a lot of money and supplies. We take a lot of supplies with us. I know when I did New York City, it cost us almost $20,000 just to do that city. We would have never got it done if somebody hadn't donated the $20,000. And so I need someone to stand up and donate so we can get on the road. I would love to get out west. Been out west several times already. But it's just been a while since I've been out there and definitely needs some targeting. somebody wants to stand up and donate that to this ministry, it'd be appreciated. Oh, and it takes a while. It takes a while. We make about 50 to 100 pipes and get out there on the road. It's going to take a while. I'll have some help with that. Closing in on some of the more important regions that need it. Still need it in northern New York. Would love to see us get one up in Toronto, somewhere across Lake Erie, up there. Love to see the Canadians get a henge up there. I know we have one in Italy. It's the only foreign country I know that we have one up in. You guys got to get busy. This isn't just an American organ war. This is international. And I know you guys in South Africa can make organ out there because I've talked to the warriors who are doing it. You get a henge up there. You get a henge up. Everybody can get a henge up. Unless you're living in a desert. Because fiberglass resin is pretty universal. I don't know what they call it in your country, but every country has boats. There's lakes, there's seas, there's oceans. Everybody has boats. You can get a hold of fiberglass resin because fiberglass resin is the resin they use to patch up holes in boats. It's used as Bondo on cars. It's waterproof. That's why it holds up so well in the weather against the elements, the rain and snow, year after year after year, because the resin we use is waterproof. So we need to continue on. We don't have much time. You know, somebody said in their video they made, they're encouraging people to buy my book, Interview with the Devil, and they're like, we don't know how much time we have left to buy this. And it really struck me when I heard that. So I'm thinking, yeah, you know, that's true. People may have 1 month, 3 months, another 9 months, but that's not a lot of time. That's not a lot of time, especially when so many things are going to be happening for next year. We know next year is going to be a garbage pit year. I know a lot of people got the rapture bug and they want to go home and they're looking for it to happen this year. We look for it to happen every year. Frankly, we're still here. I know that the Father's not going to take home his elect until the last possible second. You know, and so this is why we've been here so long already. But next year, you said it's a year of darkness. And so that could be literal, that could be symbolic. Our grid could be out, or it could be symbolic, or it could be both cases, literally. And so you just never know, folks. There's rumblings of banking, stock market crash for October. That's usually tied in with the global RV, and when they want to shut down the old system, which is what they're in the makings of doing, and begin their new economic program on Earth. So it's not a if, but a when America's economy just shuts down. Now, the only thing not written in stone in their plans is exactly how long that would take. I know someone was sending around a thing the other day about Germany warning its citizens to have 10 days of food and water. Well, you know, that's because that comes about, that actually warning went out. I think I was reading in that article back in 2011. Germany had signed a legislation thing warning people to do that. Well, you know, the Mormons have their members. They have to have a year's worth of food underneath their beds. That's a requirement of all Mormons. And this 10 days thing is because when they shut down the computers, all the banking computers, because they're going to align them all at once on a new global whatever. They always have all these excuses. New global banking law system, whatever. But they don't know how long that could take. It could take 1 day. It could take 3. The worst case scenario is, or the worst case scenario is it could take up to 10 days. They don't know how long it could take. And so that's why they're warning people, be prepared for the ATMs not to work and the banks to be shut, because the banks will be shut down. But supposedly this would take place on a weekend. They would shut it down on a Friday, and then everything would be rebooted by Monday. That's the plans. But in case they run into some kind of problems or whatever, it may take longer than what's expected. So there would be no ATMs working. Is the basic premise of that. No open banks, no ATMs. So people will not be able to get cash out of the banks. Now this whole thing, I've been following it, I think, lightly following it since 2012 with this global RV, because it tied into my websites that I had put up back in 2006 called Nasera Sucks and OmegansAreLiars.com. Go to NaseraSucks.com. And Nasera is going to be the global economic program of the beast. It's the new global financial system that they're going to be implementing on the world. So, my Bella's got her tail tied in knots, barking or something. Glad I don't have him in here with me tonight. They're usually in here. Am I sitting at my feet? But Nasera is not what it says. Obviously, everything they say and everything something is two different things. And this is part of their program that's going to run on the Peace and Prosperity platform, promising everybody peace and prosperity, bringing in this new global financial system. It's called Nasera, Nesara, and that stands for see if I can find it. National Economic Security and Reformation Act. And they promote it among the New Agers as a restoration of our Constitution, our constitutional freedoms, and that with it they're going to bring in cures for illnesses because they created all of them. New energy sources because they withheld all our patents all these years so that we're kind of stuck to the current grid system. And they're going to make financial and banking improvements, removing corrupt government officials because they corrupted them to begin with. And that through all of this, somehow, there's going to be more peace on earth. Folks. But anyway, this is going to be pushed through regardless of how stupid and retarded we know it's going to be. Because the Bible talks about the false prophet and the Antichrist and how they will have control over the United Nations, over all nations' tongues, and they will have control through the UN. And we know who's been busy working there in the background all these years is Sananda. Saint Germain has been busy running all the politics, all the money, the G20 stuff. I find it amusing that he's actually coming out a lot more. There's actually a Saint Germain soccer team in Paris now. Paris, London. Because he lets it be known that's where he hangs out, London. And I think if you look at him online, I think he touts himself as a journalist. I thought that was kind of funny. Because this guy doesn't die. He just kind of goes from century on and on and on. He's kind of like the one stuck on Earth. Where all the others stay up in their Capricorn starship on Earth. They stay up on Shima. We chased them off Shima. And Saint Germain's always kind of been the one stuck on Earth. I don't know why he gets Earth duty. But he does. And so Sananda is usually generally the one behind the UN. And he's generally the one that has my attention all the time because he's the one that the Father always has me focused on. And the one I like, I just can't even stand him. I just can't stand this guy. He's a prankster. He's a jokester. He's a 2-year-old in a 7-foot body. He is not spewing vicious hatred and violence like Maitreya is. He is nice, friendly, deceptive that way. He's the charmer that would stab you in the back while smiling at you at the same time. At least with Maitreya, he would stab you in the back and you'd see the knife coming. You know, he is what he is. That's why I can't stand Sananda so much, because he's a total charmer and deceiver. And, of course, the churches have embraced his picture as Jesus. So when the Christians see him arrive to Earth with this Islam Mahdi called Maitreya, they're going to be thinking, isn't this Jesus? Wait a minute, isn't this Jesus? This is Jesus, because they've seen his picture all these years. The bookstores, the churches, anything Christian-related, you see Sananda. That is not the real Son of God. And I think that's why, years ago I started pushing using the real name of the Father to begin with, real name of the Son, because when Jesus, Asu Emmanuel, arrives, it's going to be pretty confusing. I love Jesus. Now the Satanists are going to be saying, we love Jesus too. Because he's theirs. Jesus, this Asu Emmanuel coming, he's one of theirs. It's not so hard to call the Son of God by his real name, Yahushua ben David. Nothing hard about the name Yahushua. It's a Joshua with a Y, Yeshua. It sounds more Yahushua. I just don't get the big deal with Christians. They're so stubborn and hard-headed. It's like, quick, if y'all were calling me Stephanie, and I said, hey, my name's Sherry, call me Sherry, and y'all kept calling me Stephanie anyway, don't you think that'd be rude? It's not one of those salvation issues, it's just common sense and polite issues. Call him by his real name. But anyway, so we got that stuff going about. I didn't think a whole lot was going to happen in August. Nothing ever usually does. I said that a couple weeks ago. But we're getting towards the first week of the month, and that's always a hot time of theirs. It's the first week of any month. And that's, for September, that's when the GTO, G20 nations are going to be meeting. And I've told you before what happens at those despicable events. I was described in detail by someone who has been involved with them years ago. What happens at these G20 conferences? And they usually show up a couple days before the actual conferences begin, which is usually a Monday. They'll show up on Fridays, and the rituals begin. And usually at these rituals, I would say if the Americans show up, Obama were to show up, he would be required, because I know at the last one that was here in America, we had a field day destroying and sabotaging this one. But they were all required to sacrifice 3 people each, all the leaders. And so they were out when it was in America a couple years ago, they were out at Camp David, and we had Oregon in the place. And it was just total mayhem. The orgo destroyed the energy of the place. We had angels there. It's like I had angels everywhere at the GOP convention. We had angels there, and they just couldn't get anything done. They couldn't enjoy themselves. They usually get a big thrill out of killing 3 people or children, or they just bring in people by the truckloads. They literally do. They bring them in by these 18-wheelers, and they just herd them like cattle into the area where they're going to be murdered. And world leaders are all given their one at a time. They're given their people to kill. And so this is required of them. This is the kind of stuff they do. And then during the week of the conferences, they'll be having their conferences during the day, whatever, and then they'll be breaking away to go rape and murder kids. Pedophilia is huge amongst them. And making sacrifices to Satan, homage to Satan. And this is what they do. They're just vile beasts, folks. And I thought it was really strange this year that on the list of the Bilderbergers meeting that's huge every July, that it was all wannabes, it was all newbies this year. It's like, where are the real people? Because if you looked at the list of attendees, it was all these professors and news people, media people, I mean, seriously, all these nobodies. So where's all the top echelons at? Where are they all hiding? They're all hiding. They're all hiding. And I've seen them do this several times before, where they'll get hyped on some kind of info that a comet's coming in and it's going to hit, and they'll herd them all on ships and head them wherever they go. There was one movie, I don't remember what it was called, but they were on those boats, and they all ended up over in South Africa somewhere because they were fleeing. I think it was The Morning After or something, I don't know. That's very true of what they do. They all get together, all the elite, and they flee. And there was a escape a couple of weeks ago, I think, to South America. But I've known about this. They've done this for years, but they usually did it to the Americans. I remember back when Bush was president, and they get all the newbies that are elected into Congress, and they tell them they have to go somewhere. They have to. They use whatever excuse they have to, and they get them all on airplanes. And then when they get them all on the airplane, they still scalp them all at the same time. That's what they do. So what these people are usually, especially involved with the Bilderberger conferences, they soul scalped ages ago. They're totally controlled. And so it's the reptiles that are in them that have soul scalped them that are really into the bloodlust stuff. They can't get enough of harming humans and ripping them apart and eating and ripping up their flesh. They can't get enough of it because they're beasts, they're animals. And humans are long gone in them. And even typically with humans, what they do is the new ones that used to join, they used to get them involved with killing and harming children and humans as early as possible because it would diminish all of the light that's in them. They call it the God particle, the God gene. They're trying to narrow down the very essence of how the Lord's people communicate with Him, and they try to snuff it out and eliminate it. And so if a person with light, this God light in them, joins the Illuminati, they get them involved with drinking blood and murder and mayhem just to snuff all that light out of them. Turns them completely evil. And you look at people and their auras are just dead energy. They're just wicked and dead. They have dead, cold eyes. They have no light in them. And that's how that happens, because they get involved with these rituals. Destroying children, destroying humans. So that's coming up the first week of September. We'll get some warfare prayers out to combat everything they're trying to drum up, all the energy they try to drum up. And then they do these death rituals to drum up energy, increase energy, dead energy, dead, we call it dead orgone energy. It's dead after energy. It's like spinach to them. They try to produce enough dead energy, because to them dead energy is power, and they try to raise this power up. And give that to Lucifer to use, and we simply just try to sabotage it and take it away. So that's like the first thing in September is the G20 summit. And then in October, you have the end of Jubilee. This is a Jubilee year, Jewish calendar. It ends October 2nd. And they plan on having a stock market crash on about October 4th or 5th. This is their plans. This is nothing I've seen. I have no thus saith the Lord. This is just their stuff. This is their rumblings. This is parts of their plans. Usually when they start beating the drums of global economic restructuring, it usually means that the beast or the Ashtar command is trying to arrive. Because their arrival in this whole global implementation is always pretty much synonymous together. Which is why I've always told people that, because I know a lot of people who have bought the dinars and stuff to cash in on these global reformations. First of all, when that does happen, you can almost hear the clock starting to tick very loud. Because probably within 30 days is when you're going to see a total global economic crash. So any money you got from those exchanges is going to be gone in banking crashes. Another thing, unless you act very quickly, there's going to be nothing left to buy. When they shut down the distribution centers and stuff like that, in this forced famine, there's going to be nothing left to buy. That's why I tell people, don't leave your money in the banks. Spend it. Spend it. If you get it, spend it. Buy land, buy homes, buy cars, vehicles, supplies, whatever. Spend it. Donate it. Help other people. Spend it. Don't leave it sitting in the banks. Don't think you're going to have a retirement fund. Don't wait for Earl Schwab investment advisors to call you and set up trusts and blah, blah, blah. It's not going to do you a bit of good. Spend it. Get orgone out. You got about 1 to 3 months at that time. Get orgone out. Make pipes, get them out. Get the pipes out. The reason I love the pipes is because they punch the atmosphere. If you got a pipe that's 4 foot or higher, it can punch the atmosphere. Anything less than 4 foot's gonna stay within this side of heaven. It's gonna stay within the cloud level range. and lower. But if you got a 4-foot or higher pipe, you can puncture a hole straight through space of orgone after energy. And that's what destroys them. That's what brings down their ships and causes their satellites to melt, turn it, and burn them. It's when the UFOs come into Earth's atmosphere and they burn up. Get the orgone out, fools. Because when Sananda arrives, I've always had his correlation as the pale horse. Because to me, they're one and the same. When I sit here and I look at the Bible codes and the Bible and read these descriptions of the false prophet and the Antichrist, it always correlates with everything I know about Sananda. Sananda and Maitreya correlates everything with these two. People don't understand. They think that the Antichrist has all the power. And technically, by his very name, positioned the Antichrist, because, the Bible says there's many Antichrists already in the world, but there's the one that's coming. It's always the final beast, the one that's coming to play the role. He'll arrive and he'll establish a 10-nation confederacy. He sets up his political base among the Muslim nations on the Mediterranean. And then he gets quiet. Have you ever noticed that? Because he comes on the scene and he doesn't walk around saying, hey, I'm God, worship me. He has the false prophet, the second beast, do that. He's his cheerleader. Hey, this man is a world teacher. He's God. Worship him as God. That's what the false prophet does. He cheerleads everybody to worship the first beast as God. The false prophet has two horns, and they signify dual authority. He's going to take the reins of economics and politics. So what does that remind you of? Someone like a political pope who has control of the world's religions and control of the world's politics. Now, granted, to us, the Pope has none of those things because he's not our Pope. He's the Pope of the Satanists and the Catholics. But the beast, Sananda, when he arrives, he's going to have dual authority. Religion and politics. And where does he hang out the most? You guys don't know this stuff, but I deal with it all the time, so I do. He goes to the Vatican. He's at the Vatican. Now, we all know that there's a position behind the regular Pope, and it's called the Black Pope position. People actually will say, oh, Hans Kobenbach is the Pope, and then he was replaced by somebody else, but Kobenbach's really still the Black Pope, blah, blah, blah. It's just Lucifer, folks. The Black Pope, yeah, he runs the Jesuits. But in reality, it's all just Lucifer. Because Lucifer lives in the Vatican. He had his city under there that has been there for centuries and ages. While the Jews were drying up in the desert, Lucifer was building himself a kingdom in Vatican City, underneath the ground. He's been there for ages. He controls the world governments through his Jesuits. All this is run by what we call the Black Pope, secret hidden position behind the real Pope. The real Pope is very aware. He goes along with all the parties and the little house of horrors the Vatican is. Fathers told me how detesting and gross the Vatican is. I put that in my book in great detail, so you can be grossed out yourselves just by reading it. So you get the idea. I don't hold anything out. I don't even know where I'm going now. But that's where Sananda spends a lot of his time as well. He used to be at the Mormon temple. He used to spend a lot of time there until I saturated Salt Lake City with orgone. And now he headed to the Vatican after that. They also have a place in Toronto. Quebec, I think it is. And I think Quebec's over there by Toronto. Somebody's going to yell. I'm going to get it wrong. But they're in Quebec somewhere. They've got something in Quebec somewhere. And Quebec is French. Pretty sure that's French. They've got something up there in Quebec. And I also know they've got some kind of a group in Toronto. But the main one's wherever Quebec is. And then other than that, it's the Vatican itself. You know, and I've asked them, well, why is your focus on America? I mean, what happened to Jerusalem? Isn't that everybody's focus? And you know, even Lucifer laughs. He says, they already own it. They already own everything over there. It's boring to them. You know why it's boring? Because the Father's people are here. The Father's people are in America and Canada. Let me just say North America. The North American continent is where the Father's people are. Because the Queen's done a really good job of snuffing out the light in most of the Christians of Europe. I've never been to Australia. I've never heard a bad thing about it except the huge Illuminati sect that's there. And you know what? They're everywhere. The Illuminati's everywhere. Maybe it's just too far south for Lucifer and them. I know we got some good Orgone warriors in Australia. Did a bang-up job because everything they do down there will blow up here to the north. Helps us out extremely well. They did a powerful job down there. Proud of them. Very proud of them. So Sananda's the one to watch, folks. The one that all the churches are going to embrace is the one that's going to lead them into the lake of fire. I think right now, people ask me what's going on now in the background and stuff all the time. I think he's in Belgium right now. And we've been going in quite a bit of fighting the last couple of weeks in the background, and so he's been taken to Belgium. That's one of their main headquarters for Nasara, anyway. The ICC is their International Criminal Court, or whatever they call it. A lot of their headquarters for the Illuminati, this whole Nasara agenda they want to pull out. The headquarters is in Belgium. And I've also heard rumblings of how if New York City goes down, that they would move the whole United Nations thing over to Belgium. Brussels, Belgium. People are already thinking, where the heck is that? It's over there by Amsterdam somewhere, I think. I think of the Netherlands and Switzerland and somewhere over there. We're all bad. It's like, unless I look at a map or something ahead of time. Unless somebody in the chat room knows. Well, just keep it over there by Switzerland then, in Amsterdam. That's pretty much where he's at right now. And why isn't he at the Vatican? He has been there, but a huge part of that underground empire Lucifer had, the Vatican, was destroyed. Back in 2012, 2013, I can't even remember the exact year or time. We were warring at it again, and every time we go at it, they lose something. So people always want to know why the Father allows me to be attacked all the time, and they get angry because I'm typically taking some good hits. I'm in a lot of pain. They're always trying to kill me. And the reason being is because the retaliation is so sweet. Because I get to retaliate. They're going to attack me on Earth, and because of who I am and the rank I am on Earth, I can retaliate. And so I retaliate. And when I get to retaliate, it's sweet. I get to take out their toys. And so I don't like it. But it's one way we get things done. Other than just getting Orgon out and begging and pleading with people to wake up and get involved with the resistance and tearing down Lucifer's strongholds on this planet. You know, I can get retaliation if for taking all these personal hits from them. The Father will grant my request. That's just how it works. I don't expect people to understand it. Can't even understand there was only 12 apostles. How can you understand anything else? I get it. I get it. That's the same thing Father's always said. They can't understand there's only 12. Much more are they going to understand? How higher in knowledge can people go? Huh? So a lot of people, I sound crazy because you're just not at level of understanding where your eyes can see and your ears can hear. Doesn't mean I'm crazy, it just means you don't understand it. I don't know if anybody else has noticed. Maybe they're just extremely poisoning stuff in this area or just stuff in my fridge. It seems to me like dairy has all of a sudden got very poisonous. Toxic. And I know I've been a fan of McDonald's Cokes for a long time. I like my Cokes from McDonald's. And then they started changing the recipes. You know, whatever happened to the rumors of cocaine being in it? You know, back in the 70s, they said there was cocaine in Coke. That's called Coke. Well, I was just a small child in the 70s, but you know, I drink a Coke now, and my throat starts to close. I can't even breathe. It happened to me 2 days in a row. It was the first 2 Cokes I had in months. So I stopped drinking that garbage. Stopped going to McDonald's. Stopped drinking the garbage. Every once in a while, it used to be my cure-all fix. Whenever I felt sick, my cure-all was to go get a Coke. Go get a McDonald's Coke. There was something in it that made me feel better. Now I get it, I can't even breathe. My throat closes up and I can't breathe. That's happened to me like 3 times now. So no more McDonald's Cokes. And now it's getting to the point where every time you have milk, it's like you pay for it all day long. Your stomach just explodes, you're miserable, you can't digest it. They're putting some kind of toxic hormones and chemicals in the milk, and not even just the milk, it's the cream, so it's basically the dairy. So unless it's just my fridge, it's affecting all of it. I know they're always trying to kill me, but a lot of this personal stuff stopped when Lucifer was quarantined. He's been in a quarantine since April. Just watch the stuff you eat and drink, folks. If you start having adverse reactions, I think you know what to stay away from. I've been getting caught up, seems, in chemicals lately. Throat closes, you can't breathe. Getting sensitive to them, I think. Or they're just so saturated. My body's so saturated with them. So the day of the Lord. I got a couple minutes left of this show. The day of the Lord. It does have a really huge bit of information in Joel, along with the small part that the rapture crowd always blows up and blows out of the water to hide all their fake visions and dreams and prophecies and rapture stories. Because that part about Joel doesn't even happen now. It happens later. But they always pull it out. Hey, this is the end time. This is the part of Joel 2:20 being fulfilled. No, it's not. It's just your excuse for all your fake and lying visions and prophecies. And y'all share the same demons, just like Jeremiah said you did. Nothing new happens under the sun, folks. It all happened back in their day, too. They always had that. Everybody's had their rapture crowds to deal with. I pretty much just ignore this one. But, yeah, it's not time for people to have visions and dreams and prophecies. That's usually the Ashtar command, having fun with the Christian crowd. They love having fun with them. And they do. Sananda gives them words and prophecies all day long. You can see his dribble, his lingo, his speak, and all this stuff. It's enough to make you gag. And maybe that's why they hate me, because I expose all that stuff. I don't know, or I just ignore it. I don't know. Everybody has their different reasons for hating me. But in Joel, the one key part about the day of the Lord is that the crops are still in the field, waiting to be harvested. But they don't get harvested. Why? Because the day of the Lord begins. To me, the day of the Lord always signifies the sixth seal. And so if the crops are still in the field, we're talking a timeline. September, October, maybe even November for the sixth seal. Because you got to realize he wasn't sitting in America when he penned that. He was sitting in Western Turkey. So how late is harvest for Israel, the Middle East? I would think the latest time would be November. To us, it's September, October. So we'll give it a month or plus here, there. That's all we can do, because they're over there and we're over here. Yeah, that's the best part of the whole Joel Day of the Lord scenario that I always thought was the best part. Besides the sky rolling up in a scroll, it's the fact that it gives you the exact time, harvest time, September, October, November. Anyway, folks, pick this up next week. Don't forget to support my ministry, your favorite ministry online, SherryShriner.com. Go there, click on the donate button or the GoFundMe button. I need your help, folks. Need your support. Till next week, everybody. God bless.